Hello and welcome to Pro Trader Strategies Market Commentary for Wednesday, August the 5th. I'm Eric Wilkinson, and yes, you very well may recognize me as the Wolfman from mainstream media, where I've talked about everything from the economic data, the geopolitical environment, and how that all impacts the overall markets with my market analysis. I do the same thing in these daily market commentaries, but I layer on top of it some option strategies that I find based on those internals that we find around those underlyings where we have a directional assumption. Also, let's move on to the overall economic data and see how that is impacting the overall markets. We got a lot of PMI data, which is Purchasing Managers Index. And that is a really important economic data point. Why? Because it shows us forward guidance. It's not one of these things where it's already happened. It's the expectation of what is going to happen in the future. So this is one of the ones that we really like to look at because it gives us some forward guidance. I like leading indicators rather than lagging indicators that it's already happened. It doesn't tell us where we're going. It tells us where we've already been on those lagging indicators. So across the pond, we did get some updated PMI numbers across there. All of them pretty much in line with what was previously released. Everything basically above 50. Above 50 is expansion, below 50 is contraction. We also got European retail sales coming in at 5.7%, expected to be 6.5%. Yes, that did miss, but they did revise the previous month's number up by almost 2.5 percentage points, which makes up a little bit of that downfall, or makes up all of the downfall that we saw this month anyway. Now back here to the United States. This week is really important for payroll numbers, and we got the ADP non-farm payroll change, which isn't necessarily the one we always like to look at. We're really going to focus on Friday's economic data point, but ADP non-farm payroll coming in at 167,000 hires. It was expected to be 1.2 million hires, so missing massively on that one. It's crazy. We used to talk about 167,000 hires, and that was actually pretty decent. Well, not anymore. It is a new paradigm, but we missed massively on that number by 1 million. Almost, yeah, basically a little better than 1 million. Well, the previous month's number, we was released at 2,369,000. Well, they revised that up by 2 million. So a massive beat on the revision there. So just to talk about how crazy this number is that we have fluctuations of 2 million where we never even used to have an employment change of 1 million, really, for the most part, or not very often. So big hires there. I do think that this is an indication that this month's non-farm payroll isn't probably going to do as well as we've seen the opening up happen of this economy and then slightly shutting it back down. Like today is going back to school day. Well, what did that mean for my kids? They opened a laptop in their bedrooms, and that is going back to school. So, everybody's still pretty much on lockdown there. All right, so let's move on to the real economic data that we got today, and that is the Institute for Supply Management, or ISM, non-manufacturing PMI, which is the service sector, and that is one of the main drivers of our economy. As we know, manufacturing has pretty much moved overseas. Well, we are trying to bring back some of that manufacturing, so it could very well become more and more of a data point. But the main one we want to look at here for the United States is the service sector PMI. Again, anything above 50 is expansion, below 50 contraction. Expected to be 55, coming in at 58, which is better than expected. That is pretty good for the overall economy. Crude oil, we're looking at the crude oil chart right here, I think. Right there is the crude oil chart. Anyway, that came in at a drawdown of 7.4 million barrels, expected to be a drawdown of 3.4 million barrels, so well over double the expectation. That should give a little bit of lift here to crude oil, and it is up $1 right now. It looks like that 30 handle is out the window, so start getting used to paying over $2 a gallon for crude oil, or for $2 a gallon for gasoline at the pump. So that's pretty much it for the economic data. We do have some Fed speakers speaking later on this afternoon, and we do get some German factory orders coming in, which we would like to see there at least ramp up a little bit. We've already talked about crude oil up $1 on the day, back holding on to those 40s. Then we move over to the bonds. They're coming off by a point today. We talked about this yesterday. It finds major resistance at the 183 handle. It really is tough to get above that. Interest rates are so suppressed right now already that that is pretty unprecedented to break above that 183. Now, another round of stimulants, government pumping up cranking, I should say, up the printing press could drive interest rates a little bit lower for that long term yield. But one of the things we've talked about is they are super low right now already. You can get a 15-year loan for below 2%, which is pretty crazy for a mortgage. All right, gold futures are blasting off again today. Something I saw also, which will tie into all of this, is Portnoy, who is Barstool Sports, is not a gold bug, but he is a Bitcoin bug and wants to buy every Bitcoin out there. We have seen a lot of volume increase in Bitcoin as of late. I don't usually talk about it in these market commentaries. The volatility is just so great that I don't even like to trade around it. But gold futures have done very well off of the devaluation of the dollar. Well, Bitcoin is a flight to safety on some of that, as well as it is a currency that, when people are worried about the value of the dollar, they kind of have a tendency to throw over there. Plus, it's a huge millennial investment tool. So moving on to the VIX, it is coming off just albeit slightly, and that's across the board. We have equities in positive territory. I think it's pretty much basically because we're seeing unprecedented PMI numbers. That is in an era or in a time where we would expect to see PMI still probably below 50, but we are knocking it out of the park with that. NASDAQ up 14 points on the day, and the E-mini S&Ps up 16 points on the day. So NASDAQ starting to lag as it is at all-time highs. And I've talked about, I think the NASDAQ probably would have a pullback, and the rest of the broader equities start to draw up there because NASDAQ being the lockdown trade and Dow Jones, E-mini S&Ps are the reopening trade that I thought would start to see a little bit more gains. We might just see that these catch up, where it could be a pairs trade, and NASDAQ starts lagging a little bit compared to the rest of the broader markets as they start to rally. And we look at the E-mini S&Ps, pretty flat. I mean, we did get a bump off of the PMI number, this non-service PMI number, and then just a really tight range as of right now. But it seems like it's all the trade is late in the day on the rally. Now, I want to talk about one other one. Square released earnings. They're supposed to have their earnings this afternoon, and they released the earnings early because those earnings got released, or I guess it might have gotten hacked or something, but somehow somebody got a hold of their earnings and it was released on an external source. So they're saying it wasn't necessarily the internal, but this is the financial services sector. But one thing to note, Square we all know as the swipe your card on your phone, and that allows for e-commerce just about anywhere. Well, they also have Cash App as a product in their portfolio of companies, and that is a big Bitcoin trading app, and they had $875 million in revenue for that Cash App product, which allowed their earnings to, they're still negative. They were expected negative 3 cents in earnings, and that came out negative 2 cents in earnings. But really an amazing number out of the Cash App for the revenues generated off of Bitcoin trading. So that is pretty massive. There's 30 million active users on that Cash App. So we might be talking about Cash App more than we talk about Square in more recent times. So it did only relate to about 2.8% of their overall gross profit, but that is an amazing number, to be quite honest. All right, that's about it for today. Got a lot going on, getting ready for tomorrow's webinar. We're going to be doing that as the roadmap to implementing option strategies. When we have a directional assumption in something, that's when we are going to find the right strategy for that assumption, and we go down this pathway to finding the right option strategy. Do we go right here? Do we go left here? And it will determine where we all settle out with the correct option strategy for the environment around our assumption. So check that out at protraderstrategies.com. That's all I got for you guys. Have a great day. And if you can't, that was weak. If you can't take that, take it easy.